Hi everybody, this is Angel. I want to thank you for checking out this video. What this video will do is it'll walk us through the process of installing SugarCRM Community Edition on a shared hosting account on the TMDHosting server. If you are not using TMDHosting, you might still find some value in this video, as a number of other concepts that we will cover are pretty similar to what you will find with other hosting providers. But in general, the instructions for installing SugarCRM should be pretty much universal as well, including for other editions of SugarCRM. There's essentially 3 steps through the process. The first one is actually grabbing or obtaining the SugarCRM program files, then placing those on our hosting account, and then thirdly walking through the SugarCRM install wizard. So we'll go ahead and begin by first of all opening up our browser and going to sugarcrm.com. So as you can see, I'm already at that page, and once we are there, we will want to choose the community option from the main menu, and then select the option for downloading SugarCE. Now that will take us to the primary download page, from where we can select the appropriate install files for our installation process. In our case, we want to focus on downloading the items that we see at the very top. So it's the Download Sugar Community Edition 6.4.5 in this case. Now do be careful, because as you can see from this page, there are a number of different options, and the bottom ones correspond with what are called the stack installers, which include the web server, PHP, and some other components, which in our case the TMDHosting folks have already taken care of that for us, so we don't need to worry about that. Now the other thing too is that we're going to go ahead and choose the top one here, but you do be careful that you're not selecting one labeled as beta or RC. Those are not intended to be used for production environments, and oftentimes when Sugar is in the middle of a development cycle, they will make that the top entry on this page, so you can easily download it by accident. Alright, so I went ahead and clicked the download link, and the download process initiates just a couple seconds later. So it prompts us for a location to store the corresponding zip file. So depending on the speed of your internet connection, that might take a couple seconds or a couple of minutes. But the primary thing here to be conscientious of is just to remember where it is that we placed that file, because we will need to upload it. Alright, so to upload it, we log into our TMDHosting account. It'll bring us to a page that looks similar to the following. This is our cPanel page. Here we'll use the File Manager tool to prepare the system to receive the SugarCRM files. We'll also use the MySQL database wizard and the cron job utility at the bottom. So those 3 together will allow us to install it correctly on the TMDHosting account. So we'll begin with the first one, which is using the File Manager tool for the purposes of preparing the directory or the folder where we're going to install Sugar. So we'll go ahead and open that up right now. That should bring us to a screen that looks similar to the following, and you'll notice that there are a number of different folders in here. Where we'll want to go is into a folder called public_HTML. What that translates to, were we to look at this from the perspective of a web user, or somebody just browsing our website like yourcompany.com, is that anything that is in this public HTML folder here is what they would see when they would go to your domain or your website. We don't want to put our Sugar install in there, but what we will do is we'll actually put it into a subfolder called dev, and then underneath that we'll create another folder called SugarCE 645. So in the end, what we'll be doing is we'll actually be installing to the equivalent of yourdomain.com/dev/SugarCE 645. So here's our dev folder. We'll go ahead and open that up in a second and prepare it with the necessary SugarCRM files. So we'll go ahead and open that up now. And the files that we'll need in there is really just the zip file that we just downloaded from SugarCRM.com just a few seconds ago. Alright, so let's try opening that up again. Sorry, must have missed a double click there. Alright, so here you'll notice that we don't have anything in there that corresponds to sugar. Alright, so our first action is to actually upload the zip file, and we can do that by means of the upload button at the top. So we'll go ahead and click that, and that brings us to the upload page. Here we choose the file that we wish to upload, so we just point it back to the file that we got from SugarCRM.com. Click OK, and we allow that process to continue. And again, time necessary to do that will vary based on your internet connection and so forth. So once it's completed, you'll notice on the right hand side, on the bottom right hand side, it'll say that it's completed. So now we can go back to the file manager screen, and you'll notice that it still doesn't actually show any files there for us, so we need to actually refresh this. So what we want to do is just click the reload icon on the toolbar, and sure enough, there's our zip file now. Now we can't actually use the zip file as is, so what we need to do is extract the contents. So we do that by means of the extract button at the top there. So we'll go ahead and select the file and click extract. Go ahead and click OK on that. Just basically asking us to confirm that we wish to extract it to that location. Goes through the process. Go ahead and click close once it completes. And again, we need to refresh. And sure enough, here's our folder. And we are going to take a quick look in there just so you get an idea of what's in there. So you can see there, what you have there is essentially the contents of a SugarCRM install, and there's a couple of other things that the install process will create for us, but for the most part, if you're familiar with the SugarCRM install, you'll see that a lot of these things look fairly similar or familiar. Alright, so the next thing, since we're going to install this to yourdomain.com/dev/SugarCE645, we actually need to rename that folder to actually read as SugarCE645. Note that this is case sensitive, so we need to be careful with the casing as well. So we'll go ahead and make that change. So let's go ahead and put that in there, SugarCE645. So we're ready. And the next part of our process is to prepare the database. So we need to create an empty database, and we do that by going back to the cPanel and choosing the MySQL database wizard. And it's asking us to provide a name for the database. We're going to use the name of CE645, but note that the actual name of the database is a combination of the prefix that's already entered or provided by your hosting provider and the value that we typed into that field to the right of the underscore. So during the install process in Sugar, we actually need to put in that full name. So everything to the left of the underscore, and then everything to the right of the underscore. So we go ahead and click next, and we need to create a username. The same principles apply to the username. You'll notice that there is a prefix associated with it, and we'll go ahead and just name the user CE645 as well. And we also need to define a password for it. But again, during the process of installing Sugar, when we're prompted for the database username, we have to put in the full name with the prefix included. That prefix will vary because it's dependent or tied to your account name or your account settings, so it's not going to be exactly like mine here. Next screen, we set the permissions for that particular database user. Selecting all privileges is more than adequate for our needs here. So we'll go ahead and choose that option and just proceed to the next screen on the wizard, which is actually just a summary of what we just done. So take note of anything that you might have trouble remembering here, because we will need to input that information into the SugarCRM installation wizard. Now to get to that wizard, what we do is we open up our browser, and we're going to go to yourdomain.com/dev/SugarCE645, and assuming everything was done correctly, you should see a screen that looks very similar to the following screen that we will see here. Okay. If you do not see it, then you need to kind of go back and double check the steps that you followed there. But you can go ahead and click next on the first couple of pages here. Eventually you will get to a license page, which you'll need to review, and once you're in agreement, proceed to click the I agree checkbox and then click next. And on the screen that follows, we are prompted to make a couple of selections, which we really don't need to worry about too much. You can just go ahead and click next on that and leave it set to the default settings. But the one that does matter is this one here, where we see the database configuration. So here's where we enter that full database name. So in my case, TL on DMA_CE645. Below that is the host name. That's always going to be set to 127.0.0.1. So you see that value is already in there. And then the database username, again, the prefix with the value that we typed in. So TL on DMA_CE645, and then the corresponding password. At the very bottom, if you want to install the demo data, you can choose yes. I typically install it without it. Because what ends up doing is it ends up giving me a completely blank SugarCRM install at that point. So anyways, so here's kind of what I leave it set to, and I go ahead and click next. It asks me to confirm that that indeed is the database that I wish to use. If you've installed Sugar before, you might wonder why this comes up here but not in other situations, because typically Sugar will create the database on the fly for you. But because we created the database in advance, it's asking us to confirm that indeed we want to use that. So we'll just go ahead and agree there that indeed that is the database that we want. So we'll go ahead and click on that and proceed. We need to assign a password to the admin user, which is a built-in user for Sugar. So note that the passwords are case sensitive. Take note of it and go ahead and click next. So then we get a summary of what's about to happen and the different parameters. Go ahead and click install, and the install process begins. Note that the process will take about 30 to 45 seconds. If you chose to install the demo data, it might take 3 or 4 minutes, so that's not unreasonable for it to take that long under that circumstance. But in general, if you're installing just an empty one, 30 to 45 seconds should be about the amount of time that it generally takes. So let's just wait it out here. Here we go. All right, it's done. So we'll just go ahead and click next, and brings us to a registration page, which is completely optional, but it would be nice if you could fill it out so the folks at Sugar know that you're using it. We'll go ahead and leave it blank for now. We'll just go ahead and click next. Brings us to the main login page, but you'll notice that the formatting looks way off. So this is a result of a permission setting that we need to adjust within our install. You saw me flash back to the file manager there for a second, or actually the cPanel for a second. We're not actually going to be able to make that change within that. So what we need to do is we need to use an FTP client like FileZilla, which is the one that I use, and we use that to connect to our TMDHosting account. And you'll notice that when I connect to it, I get a view of a number of different folders, which is essentially just a mirror of what I would see if I were connected via File Manager. So if we toggle back over here, you'll notice that it's basically the same thing, just being viewed through a different application. Now, what we need to do in FileZilla, or whatever FTP client you choose to use, is go into the public HTML folder, then go into the dev folder, and then we'll want to go into the SugarCE645 folder, which is our instance of Sugar. And within that, we want to select the cache folder, right click on it, and then choose file permissions. Want to make sure that the file mode is set to 755, and choose the recursive option at the bottom, making sure that all the files and folders below it are selected. And click OK and let that process run. Okay. Now, the reason why we didn't do this in File Manager is because File Manager doesn't have that recursive option, and that is necessary for us to be able to correct this problem. But there is something else that we need to do in File Manager or via File Manager, so we'll go ahead and switch over to that and apply that change. So again, we navigate to the folder that contains sugar, so we're already there, sugar C645. We'll look for a file called config.php, select it, then at the top we're going to choose the code editor icon. Okay, go ahead and click open file. That opens up our config.php file. Scroll down a bit to the section that says default permissions, and there's two settings here that we need to adjust. The first one, we need to change it to 1533, that's 1533, and the second one we want to change it to 436, so 436. Okay, so once you've made those changes, save it, close the file, and we're all set on that front. So let's go back and check FileZilla to see if everything else is done on that end. And sure enough, looks like we're good to go there. There's no activity, so looks like that's all done. So let's go back to sugar now, and we should be able to refresh this, and things should look good. And sure enough, there we are. So things look properly formatted now. So we can go ahead and log in. So we'll go ahead and type in the password that we defined during the installation process. And there's one last item that we need to configure, and that relates to something called the scheduler. But before we can get there, upon first login for all your users, they'll get prompted to enter some values through this new user wizard, and you can just click next through most of those screens. But there is one screen where you will have to enter a value, and that's this one here, and you do need to enter the email address that corresponds with that user. So we'll just go ahead and make one up and put it in there, and then proceed to click next on our screens. Okay, and we'll go ahead and click next. There we are. So there's our first look at our brand new install of Sugar. So now the thing is configuring the scheduler. Scheduler is used to run automated tasks. So for example, things like delivering or sending the emails associated with an email campaign. And in order to do that, we have to use a combination of the scheduler in Sugar and cron job. So in Sugar we go to admin, and then we go to scheduler, and there's a particular bit of info that we need to retrieve from here, and that's at the bottom of the page. This too is something that will be unique to your particular account, so you can't use what you see on my screen here verbatim because it's not going to work for you. But go ahead and highlight that and copy that to your clipboard, and we'll want to switch over to the cPanel tool for your TMDHosting account. And assuming we're on the home page, we'll scroll to the bottom, click on cron jobs, and we'll want to, first of all, just from top to bottom there where it's asking us the minutes, the hours, the days, etc., we'll just put a star in there. And what that equates to is that it's going to execute the command that we give it every minute of every hour of every day, for every week, etc. So basically infinitely. So the string that we copied into the clipboard, we paste that into our command field here. So the way that this works is that we're essentially telling the operating system to check the Sugar scheduler every minute. Now that might be a little too frequent for your needs. You might be okay with every 5 minutes, every 15 minutes or so. So we're going to go ahead and adjust it to actually do it every 5 minutes instead, which is the more common setting that I tend to use. So we do that by simply going back to the minutes field and making a quick update to that. So we just simply change that to read as */5. So we'll do that in just a second. But anyways, like I said, what that'll cause it to do is the operating system every 5 minutes will automatically read some information from the Sugar scheduler and determine whether or not it needs to do something. Alright, so there's a change for every 5 minutes, and then we simply click the bottom button there to add it as a cron job, and we're done. So that completes our installation of SugarCRM. You can go back to Sugar and then click on Admin and User Management, and you can proceed to add your other users and so forth, and give them the URL to access Sugar, and you're ready to go. Thanks a lot for checking out this video. I hope that you found it of assistance to you. Keep an eye out for further videos from me. And if you want to get in touch with me, here's my contact information. Feel free to email me with your feedback or suggestions, and I look forward to being of assistance in the future. Thank you.